Episode 1: Humanity that could not reach the stars. Humanity ultimately faced a harsh truth. Reaching the stars would not be as easy as it had imagined. The speed of light could not be surpassed, distances were merciless, and the laws of physics were non-negotiable. But the real crisis was not in science. It was in economics. The global system was trapped on Earth and could no longer grow as it once had. As growth slowed, prosperity fell, crises deepened, and human civilization entered a long period of depression. Earth was trapped under energy crises, environmental pressure, inequality, and great power rivalry. That is why a new space race began in the second half of the 21st century. This time, the issue was not prestige, but opening new economic zones. The new economy was no longer being built only on Earth, but also in orbit, on the Moon, on Mars, and in the asteroid belt. First came permanent stations, then lunar bases. After that, humanity fixed its gaze on Mars. At the time, no one yet understood that this was not merely a colonization push, but the beginning of one of the greatest ruptures in human history. Because the gateway into the solar system would bring humanity not only new resources, but new conflicts as well. Episode 2: The Lunar Race and the Gateway to Mars. As Earth became economically constrained, humanity split not only into classes, but more sharply into geopolitical blocs. Toward the end of the 21st century, the planet was increasingly divided into two major spheres of power: the global north and the global south. This division was not only about trade or politics, it also determined who would lead the new age of space. Both blocs soon reached the same conclusion. The real key to reaching Mars was first to control the Moon. The Moon's southern hemisphere, and more precisely its polar regions, became one of the most valuable strategic targets in human history. Because the water and ice deposits found there were critical not only for life support, but also for fuel production and deep space logistics. Water extracted on the Moon was split to produce oxygen and hydrogen, creating the fuel chain needed for missions to Mars. In a sense, the road to Mars no longer began on Earth, but on the Moon. The Global South entered this race mainly through large state-centered blocs and publicly backed programs. In the Global North, by contrast, governments, investment funds, and giant space companies led by entrepreneurs like Elon Musk acted together. In this way, the space race expanded through two distinct models, one driven by centralized state power, the other by state corporate partnership. The bases established in the Moon's south quickly became more than scientific outposts. They turned into refineries, fuel stations, and logistical ports. Whoever controlled the Moon's water and fuel infrastructure would, to a large extent, control the corridor to Mars as well. This is how the colonization of Mars truly began, not with a romantic dream of exploration, but with a resource chain built on the Moon and intense great power rivalry. And without realizing it, humanity carried Earth's geopolitical divisions first to the Moon and then to Mars. Episode 3: The Birth of Mars. Once the water, fuel, and logistics chain on the Moon was complete, humanity was ready for the next great step: Mars. The first permanent human settlements on Mars were established toward the end of the 21st century at enormous cost and through multi-layered international partnerships. But from the very beginning, Mars was viewed not as a romantic exploration project, but as the new field for economic escape and systemic expansion. Because Elon Musk was the most symbolic pioneer of this process, the first major hub gradually evolved into Elonberg, the capital of Mars. The earliest Martian settlements were fragile. They survived through domes, modular living units, narrow energy grids, and delicate life support systems. Everything was limited. Air was limited, water was limited, energy was limited, and the margin for error was almost non-existent. Even so, Mars very quickly ceased to be an ordinary colony. Everyone realized the same fact. Mars was the strategic gateway to the outer solar system. Mining routes stretching into the asteroid belt, deep space transport, and corridors linking the outer colonies made Mars indispensable. States, investment funds, and giant corporations from Earth poured into Mars, but each of them wanted to shape this new world according to its own interests. In this way, the old disorders of Earth were carried into space as well. Economic tutelage, conflicts of interest, class tension, and exploitation. As Mars grew, the central question grew with it. Would this planet remain a distant extension of Earth, become the property of corporations, or one day truly belong to the Martians? At that stage, no one knew the answer. But it was obvious from the beginning, the future of Mars would be determined not only by technology, but by struggles over power. Episode 4. Life on Earth and Mars in 2210. By the year 2210, humanity was no longer a single-planet civilization. Earth and Mars had become two distinct spheres of life inhabited by the same species, yet increasingly diverging from one another. Earth remained humanity's historical center, but it was no longer the overcrowded, overflowing, industrially suffocated planet of the past. The population had fallen, society had aged, and cities had become more controlled, more orderly, and governed by far more advanced technology. Heavy industry had largely been dismantled on Earth. Polluting production was banned, and the planet had become primarily the center of finance, governance, and high technology. Vast financial centers, AI-supported governance networks, biotechnology laboratories, and global institutions formed the backbone of life on Earth. People on Earth lived longer, in cleaner cities, and with greater daily comfort. But the cost of that prosperity was being paid on other worlds. For ordinary people on Earth, Mars was usually seen as a distant, harsh, industrial world of production. The comfort of everyday life rested on invisible labor in space. Mars, by contrast, was the planet not of comfort, but of discipline. By 2021, it was no longer a small colony, but a giant civilization with a population exceeding 2 billion. To live on Mars meant to work, to produce, and to remain constantly operational. Labor, logistics, and systemic discipline shaped every layer of life. Factories, energy centers, greenhouse complexes, ore processing lines, and transportation corridors formed the true backbone of Martian society. For that reason, the working class on Mars was extraordinarily powerful. Trade unions had become not only an economic force, but a political one. The collective memory of Martian society held one core belief. This planet had not been built by those sitting behind desks, but by workers who had risked their lives. Low gravity and high radiation had begun to change the human being on Mars over successive generations. Stature had increased, body structure had become leaner, and a new human population had emerged that was more resilient to harsh conditions and radiation. Martians now defined themselves not only through citizenship, but partly through a biological distinction as well. Toward Earth, they felt deeply mixed emotions: admiration, jealousy, hunger, and a profound sense of being exploited. In their eyes, Earth was a comfortable center, enjoying the beauty of a magnificent planet while shifting heavy production onto other worlds. Martians could travel to Earth as tourists, but they needed visas and could not remain there for long. That is why by 2210, the difference between Earth and Mars was not merely geographic. Their ways of life, class consciousness, and visions of the future had diverged as well. The same humanity now lived on two different worlds. One was the center of prosperity, the other of production. And that divide had already planted the seeds of the great conflict to come. Episode 5, The Solar System Order. In 2021, Mars was not yet fully habitable, but neither was it the old lethal and barren Mars. Centuries of terraforming had partially transformed the planet, and the process had reached roughly the 50 to 55% level. A thin but permanent atmosphere had formed, radiation had fallen somewhat, and surface pressure had increased. Even so, it was still impossible to survive outside without special suits. Even so, people no longer lived entirely underground. Vast domes, glass common spaces, and semi-open transit cities defined the new face of Mars. Agriculture had begun in Martian soil, though not in open fields. It operated through giant greenhouses and tightly controlled biological cycles. But Mars derived its true importance not from its habitability, but from its place within the larger economic system. Earth had become the center not of heavy industry, but of finance, governance, law, design, and high technology. Polluting production had been banned on Earth. Most dirty and heavy work had been shifted to other worlds. On Titan, marine agriculture and advanced food production supplied biological products suited for closed ecosystems across the system. Ganymede had become a giant mining center for rare earth elements and heavy metals. The asteroid belt, meanwhile, was the mining vault of human civilization. Automated drilling networks and corporation-controlled extraction bases worked there without pause. But Mars was the main hub where these scattered resources were turned into actual products. Raw materials came from elsewhere. Industrial transformation happened on Mars. In a sense, Earth produced money and decisions, while Mars produced the physical goods that kept civilization running. The arteries of this order were interplanetary transportation. Giant cargo fleets were the unseen circulation system of the solar system. These ships were far faster than anything available today. Advanced ion drives, improved solar sails, and nuclear propulsion systems were used in combination. The largest vessels used artificial gravity. Humanity had not reached the stars, but it had built a vast industrial civilization within the solar system. Yet beneath this order lay a dangerous contradiction. Earth was the center of prosperity, while Mars and the outer colonies were the center of labor and risk. And for precisely that reason, no matter how powerful the solar system's economic order appeared, it already carried within it the seeds of the great conflict to come. Episode 6, The Fury of the Red Planet. Around 2021, Mars looked strong from the outside, but inside the system was beginning to crack. Inflation was rising. Basic consumer goods were becoming more expensive, wages were being suppressed, and daily life was becoming harder. One idea spread rapidly through Martian society. Earth-based corporations were making profits, while Martians were paying the price. Especially the workers in heavy industry, energy, and transport unions began threatening major strikes. Earth-linked corporations refused to step back. To protect their profits, they moved to weaken the unions. The existing Martian government, in the name of preserving order, aligned itself more closely with the corporations and decided to suppress the protests. Mass demonstrations erupted in the industrial domes, workers' districts, and major terminals of Elenberg. Police, private security forces, and paramilitary units cracked down harshly on the demonstrators. There were many dead and wounded, but this repression did not save the system. On the contrary, it destroyed the government's legitimacy. A new political bloc rose on Mars, pro-labor, backed by unions, fiercely independence-minded, and openly anti-Earth. In the end, change came through elections after pressure escalated in the wake of a popular uprising. The people of Mars voted the old government out. As soon as it took power, the new administration began nationalizing the facilities of Earth corporations on Mars. Factories, energy grids, warehouses, and strategic logistics centers passed one by one into the hands of the Martian state. Then, a significant portion of Earth's citizens was declared a security threat and expelled from Mars. This was no longer an economic reform, it was a de facto declaration of independence. Episode 7, Blockade and the Edge of War. Earth viewed the nationalizations and deportations on Mars as a direct act of defiance. Because Mars was no ordinary colony, it was one of the most critical industrial centers in the solar system. Instead of a full-scale invasion, Earth leaders chose a more controlled but devastating method: blockade. Space fleets loyal to Earth began cutting the supply lines reaching Mars from Ganymede, Titan, and the asteroid belt. Energy equipment, rare minerals, spare parts, and food support were suddenly placed at risk. Mars answered not by retreating, but with an even greater escalation. Nuclear-capable missile networks were turned towards Earth. The message was clear: if you try to strangle us, you will not remain safe either. The effects of the crisis were felt immediately. Earth began to experience serious shortages in some critical manufacturing lines and consumer networks. On Mars, however, the cost of the blockade was even heavier. Pressure mounted on energy, fuel, and core systems. The first hot flashpoint came when Earth's fleet destroyed several Martian supply ships trying to break the blockade. Mars responded by seizing a civilian Earth vessel for violating its orbital zone and took its crew hostage. Each side began accusing the other of piracy, state terror, and hostility to civilization itself. At the same time, acts of sabotage and explosions struck Mars. Energy nodes and data lines were targeted. The Martian government claimed these were the work of Earth-backed cells. Earth denied the accusations. Eventually, the tension was moved to neutral diplomatic zones on the moon. Ambassadors and generals sat down at the same table. But while talks continued at the table, fleets were repositioning in space. Missile networks were activating, and populations were preparing for war. By the end of 2210, the issue was no longer taxes or minerals. The issue was which world would become the true center of humanity. Episode 8. The Sphere Beside the Sun. The crisis between Earth and Mars now looked irreversible. War was only days away. At that very moment, an unexplainable anomaly was detected by solar observation networks. Very close to the Sun, a massive structure appeared where nothing had been before. This structure was not natural. It could not be explained by human technology, and its scale was more terrifying than anything humanity had ever built. Some called it a Dyson sphere. Others argued that it was a more complex megastructure designed to harvest stellar energy. For the first time, the leaders of Earth and Mars made the same decision at the same moment. All military escalation would be frozen. The blockade was not lifted. The war was not over. But no shots would be fired. Everyone would wait. Days passed, weeks passed, no attack came, and no message arrived. This silence had a more devastating psychological effect than war itself. Markets collapsed on Earth, and panic spread among the masses on Mars. Then one day, all telescopes detected the same movement. From within the sphere, a gigantic, dark ship was emerging. The ship resembled nothing humanity had ever built. It was dark, wedge-shaped, and terrifying. As it approached Earth, the propulsion system it used matched no human model. It was as if physics itself worked differently for it. At that exact moment, communication networks on Earth, Mars, and throughout the colonies cut out in a burst of static. Television broadcasts, military command channels, personal devices, data terminals, and public screens were all seized at once. Then all of humanity heard the same message. We have surpassed the physical laws you could not overcome. We have been watching your conflicts for a very long time. We have come as the true owners of the solar system, or perhaps we have returned. Either unite or be destroyed. In that moment, the war between Earth and Mars did not end, but it suddenly became smaller. For the first time, humanity stood beneath a larger shadow. The question was no longer whether Earth would win or Mars would win. The real question was whether humanity could remain together at all. Please don't forget to subscribe and like. See you with new videos soon.